Hey, how's it going, everyone? It's Sylvain here. Hope you're having a great week. So on today's video, I'm having an interview with TK Coleman. So we're going to be discussing BSV. So let's see you at the end of this interview.
Again, it's Sylvain. Welcome to the channel. On today's video, I'm going to present TK Coleman right beside me. So he's the Director of Entrepreneurial Education at FEE. So we're just going to have a quick, just a simple discussion on crypto. So without further ado, here's TK. And if you'd like to as well introduce yourself before we start.
Yeah, man. At the end of the day, let's see here. Let me say something personal rather than professional.
Yeah.
Although I've said it a million times, enough to sound like a broken record. My driving passion in life, the thing that makes me get out of bed every morning, is I believe that every single one of us has a reason for being here. And I believe that that our greatest joy and our greatest experience of freedom and success is found by discovering and doing what makes you come alive. One of my favorite quotes is by Howard Thurman, who said, "Ask not yourself what the world needs, but rather what makes you come alive, for that is what the world needs, people who have come alive." And so my life is an experiment in implementing that philosophy and encouraging as many other people as I can to do that. So I'm an entrepreneur by profession, and I'm also an educator, and I talk with a lot of people about economic literacy and entrepreneurial thinking and how they impact your day-to-day experience and why this isn't just a purely academic topic of conversation. So that's a little bit about who I am, man.
Yeah, sounds good. So again, thanks again for coming on the show. So again, let's talk a bit about crypto. That's what we want to get to. To start, when did you first get started in crypto? Because there's always a start somewhere. So how did that happen?
Yeah. So whenever I have told this story, I've always began right around the all-time highs for BTC in 2017. But I'll add a little detail in there that I haven't talked about in previous iterations of this story. And that is, I have been interested in the possibilities and power of the free markets for a very long time. At no point in my life have I ever been an authoritarian. At no point in my life have I ever been a statist. At no point in my life have I ever believed that governments can do anything better than free markets. And while I have always been passionate about helping human beings flourish, I've always believed that the best way to do that is through reliance upon the creative power of the individual and voluntary cooperation and collaboration. And so when it came to the idea that money issuance was monopolized by a central authority, from the moment I became aware of that, I didn't know that as a kid. I didn't have anybody teaching me about the specifics of, monetary theory and so forth. But from the moment I realized that seemed wrong, right? And it seemed obvious to me that this was connected to so many other things in our world that just don't seem to work, that we are all working harder than we need to be prosperous. Mm-hmm. We're all fighting an uphill battle, and it can't just be boiled down to partisan talking points about this group over here being lazy and entitled or a victim mindset, and this group over here just, hating the poor. There's something deeper and more fundamental at work, and that is the very medium of exchange that we rely upon to do the most fundamental human thing that we can do, which is exchange value with one another. That is the cause of things. So I have been ready for Bitcoin. And even though in terms of understanding Satoshi's invention, the moment that I heard about this, there was an initial reaction of, whoa, like, this is cool. I got to look into this. So that's kind of the preface. But when it comes to crypto specifically, around, I would say, I don't know, maybe like 2015, 2016, I have been speaking at a lot of universities and so forth, mostly either associated with my work with Praxis or my work with FEE, talking about free markets. And whenever the topic of money would come up, a lot of students would ask me, had I heard about Bitcoin? And I hadn't heard about it. But I remember making a mental note. A lot of kids are asking about this. I got to look into this thing sometime. I also, worked with Jeffrey Tucker at that time. And I would run into him a lot at different events or workshops. And he was talking about it a lot. And he was on a lot of, media discussing it. And I would ask him questions about it. And I was like, okay, Tucker's really into this. I got to look into this thing. Same thing with Steve Patterson. Same thing with Isaac and Derek. These guys were talking about it. And so all the people around me were discussing it. And I sort of looked at it in the way that we all look at certain things. Like we all have subjects or topics that we know have some interesting insights to deliver. And you buy some books on it. You bookmark some articles on it. You save some YouTube videos on it. You're like, all right, one day I'm going to come check that out. And that's what I did with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then when the all-time highs hit and everybody and their mom and every bartender and cab driver and Uber driver was talking about Bitcoin, I was like, whoa, that's that thing that everybody was talking about? And I'm sorry, man, I can't pretend to be non-human. Yeah, I was pretty livid. I felt some regret because I had a bunch of people telling me about this thing that more than tripled in value, from the time they told me about it. And I just can't relate to anybody who wouldn't feel a sense of having missed out as a result of that. And so I was like, man, but okay, maybe this is kind of like the universe's way of saying, see, when I'm throwing something in your face, you might want to pay attention to it. And so I started to look into it and follow along with the debates that were happening at that time between Bitcoin Cash and BTC, but still not taking a very scholarly approach, just asking a bunch of questions to Steve, to Derek, to Isaac, to people that I knew that were into it. And it definitely made sense to me at that time that the big block perspective seemed to be most consistent with what Bitcoin was designed to do. And it seemed to fit the vision for peer-to-peer electronic cash rather than the sort of like anarchist narrative of like digital gold, store of value. And so I kind of sided with Bitcoin Cash, but I also still had a little bit of that, well, what's the next big thing as a way to compensate for me having missed out the first time? And so I dabbled a lot with altcoins. And, I thought I had a good system for analyzing altcoins. Let's check out the development team. Let's see how many GitHub commits they have. And let's read their white paper. And let's make sure they have a good use case. And, doing all the noob stuff that you think, sounds so smart and responsible. And I remember reading Krawitz talk about altcoins being a scam. And it challenged me. But I didn't quite get it. It made me think, and I never forgot it. But I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if this guy's getting it, And the more I studied, the more stuff began to make sense. But I began to witness things happening in real time that confirmed a lot of things he predicted based on the tokenomics of altcoins. So I saw a lot of the altcoins that I really liked, like GVT, Hacken, Ethereum Lend, Sonam, all these different things. They started saying things like, oh, now we're going to accept Ethereum and BTC and Litecoin or whatever it may be, to encourage adoption, whatever. And I watched their tokens get more and more useless. And I saw how there was no real connection between the token and the production value of the whatever service they provided. And things really started to make sense. And I decided, you know what? I'm getting out of altcoins. Even though you probably can make some money by gambling, if I'm going to gamble, I'm just going to gamble on basketball games because at least I know what the heck I'm doing there, And so I just got out of altcoins and I started focusing again on Bitcoin. And that was around the time the BCH, BSV, hash wars and debates were going back and forth. And a lot of my friends were on the BCH side. And I was just like, man, this is confusing. Who knows? Let's just try to, support both to the best of our ability. And the more I looked into it, what won me over for BSV was that everything that the BSV roadmap talked about, seemed to be so ambitious and so exciting. It seemed to be what every entrepreneur would look for. Like, if you're going to do something, don't do what's already been done. Try to do what's never been done before. Even if you fail, try to take a real risk. And BSV seemed like it was doing that. And no one seemed interested in competing with BSV. Everyone was just sort of dismissing it as stupid or silly, or it can't work, or maybe there's something there, but it's secondary. Let's figure out the cash part first. And another thing I saw in the BCH community was this attitude of celebrating every time you get like a hot dog stand or a hamburger restaurant to hang up a sign saying now accepting Bitcoin Cash. And that just seemed to be so old school and inefficient as an approach to get mass adoption. It's like, okay, that guy's going to hang up a sign so you can get your picture with him after you begged him and maybe paid him some Bitcoin Cash. But what reason is that guy going to have for actually accepting that from his customers more than Visa or more than his local currency? I mean, apart from the Bitcoin geeks that come to him, that's not going to be a game changer. And the BSV roadmap approached the question of adoption in a way that seemed to be a real big game changer. And just, everything from the MetaNet, the path to adoption, looking past the hate on Craig Wright and listening to what he was actually saying rather than what other people were saying about him. It just got me to the point where I said, you know what? Even if there are other coins that might offer an opportunity to profit through speculation, I'm out of that. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. For me, it's BSV or bust. And if BSV fails, oh well, that stinks. Nobody promised us that any form of technological disruption would work anyway. But if there's anything I want to see win and anything I want to support and contribute to, it's BSV, man. So that's my background and how I got into this.
Yeah, your experience is actually pretty unique because you've got friends that are into Bitcoin Cash, and then you're more like BSV, and then some of them seem to be kind of on the fence about that one. And I think for especially newbies, because I'm newer than you, and even in the crypto, because I think I got started in 2018, just before that BSV thing happened. So I'm still new, but I'm talking to people, trying to learn, and so on. So for people not understanding crypto, what would be the difference between Bitcoin Cash and BSV from your perspective on the actual vision? Just trying to, explain to people watching it that actually don't understand or don't even know that BCH and BSV existed apart from Bitcoin. How would you sum it up like?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest difference to me is a huge gap in what each community is even attempting to do, right? Let's separate, let's set aside questions of execution and probable success, but what are they even trying to do? Mm-hmm. Because if you pay attention to the Bitcoin Cash community, although there are people there that will say there are some good things that BSV is doing, for the most part, they are not trying to compete with BSV. For the most part, they dismiss what BSV does as either silly or just secondary, something that comes after the more important thing. Bitcoin Cash is trying to be the future of peer-to-peer electronic cash. Now, there are criticisms that you can make of BCH. I don't know if I might have misspoke. I'm talking about BCH. BCH is attempting to be the future of peer-to-peer electronic cash. And there are criticisms you can make of how likely it is that they will succeed or whatever, but that's what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. BSV is trying to do something so much bigger. BSV is trying to be the future of value exchange, period. BSV is trying to be what Craig Wright calls the plumbing for the internet, right? Andreas Antonopoulos likes to say, Bitcoin isn't money for the internet, it's the internet for money. I would say BSV isn't internet for money, it's the internet for the internet. in the same way that we took radio and television and magazines and put it inside the internet, we're going to take the internet itself and put it inside of BSV. So BSV isn't just about money. I saw Jimmy Wynn in the talk that he gave. He had Bitcoin, data, money. BSV is about revolutionizing the way that we exchange information altogether, and money is just one aspect of that. Money is like the most readily understandable application of it, but it's so much bigger than that. So it's not just about cash. It's about revolutionizing the way we exchange information. It's not just about coming up with a new kind of currency. It's about coming up with a new way of interacting and a new way of documenting the things that we do entirely. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Hopefully people understand a bit more what the difference is. Again, I can include resources in the description later on, where to look at and that sort of thing. So talking about Craig Wright and, maybe the narrative on social media about BSV, because a lot of people call it a scam or Craig Wright is, crazy and so on. So do you think that that hurts the actual, community, like onboarding more people as part of the BSV? Because, they kind of see an obstacle there. It'd be like, well, if I promote BSV, I'm going to get, a lot of people, hurting my social media or, getting into me and stuff like that. So do you think that hurts that or not? What's your point of view on that?
Let me try to go about that question this way. You have a blue colored shirt on. What does it say? Levi's?
Yeah, Levi's. Yeah.
So what if I said to you, hey man, I'm kind of worried about you wearing like a Levi's shirt because, we live in a world where people are really into Levi's. They like Nike and Reebok and stuff. And I'm worried that you're really compromising your ability to make friends and be accepted by, a wider range of people by wearing a blue colored Levi's shirt. That's my feeling. What will be your response to that?
Yeah, well, first off, it doesn't change the person who you are at first, right? If the clothing, right? So, it can be Levi's one day and then Nike the other day. So I don't think that would, in that sense, impact too much, right? So, and again,
let me throw in something extra. Suppose I go find 10 guys and I say, hey guys, wouldn't you be friends with this guy if he just wore like a red Nike shirt instead of a blue Levi's one? And they said, yep, we sure would. We'd be his buddy if he only changed that. Do you care now? Do you care what do you care about this argument?
Yeah, not really. Yeah. So it's, yeah. It wouldn't be something why you would want to have friends, just because of a shirt, obviously. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a stab at guessing why you don't care about that. And you tell me if I'm right or wrong. The reason you don't care is because you don't measure success by what other people think you need to do in order to be liked by the people they think you should care about.
Yep.
You measure success by your ability to create the results that matter most to you. So even if I can go find 100 people that will agree to like you more if you change their shirt to a red colored Nike one, it doesn't matter to you because those 100 people are not relevant to the results that you want to create, right?
Yep.
All right. So I think anytime we look at a person and we say this person is successful, this person is failing, we are often being more arrogant and presumptuous than we suppose ourselves to be because we're evaluating that person by standards of success and failure based on our own priority. I can look at a musician who's only selling, 100,000 copies, and I can say, oh, if they only changed this one thing about themselves, if they chose to do more raunchy music, if they chose to be more flirty and develop a persona, they could sell millions of copies. So they're failing. If they only did what I think they should do, they'd be more successful. Well, that's the wrong standard because I don't know if they care about those things. Mm-hmm. What's important to that musician? Is it the freedom to do it how they want to do it? Is it selling as many copies and so forth? So when people say things like Craig Wright's personality, his controversial manner or whatever it may be is causing BSV to achieve delayed adoption or be rejected by certain people, I think that's all a reflection of a set of priorities that have been created by this cryptocurrency industry where everyone's trading and speculating on a bunch of altcoins by way of exchanges. And I think if that was the goal for BSV, those people would be exactly right. But I think Craig Wright, and I think if you actually read him, he explicitly says this, which is what makes this just so surprising that we have to answer this question. He doesn't care about any of those things. He's trying to play an entirely different game. He's trying to play a game that does not involve being loved by CZ from Binance. He's trying to play a game that doesn't require Roger Ver to say, all right, man, I admit you're Satoshi. He's playing a game that is capable of succeeding even if everybody on every exchange absolutely hates him, even if Jimmy Song makes videos making fun of him. He's playing a game for which those things don't matter, right? Yeah. So my response to this, does Craig hurt the reputation of BSV? Yes, if the goal of BSV is to be what everyone outside of BSV wants it to be, or if the goal is to just, win Moon, win Lamborghini game. Yeah. But I think looking at the empirical evidence itself, everything that I'm seeing from BSV says that Craig is actually winning. Oh, but the people on Twitter say that he might be losing the court case based on how it looks. Even though it's not over, the people on Twitter say this or say that. Well, here's what I'm looking at, man. I'm looking at the changes that are taking place right now in real time in terms of mining profitability. I'm looking at the economics of BSV and how much of a better job it's done than all competing chains at setting itself up to do massive scaling, outperformed everybody in the crypto space. I'm looking at things like the EHR agreement and the number of transactions that are going to go on the blockchain and the way in which 4 representatives or 3 representatives from EHR were willing to get on stage at CoinGeek and talk about why they like BSV. I'm interested in that kind of stuff. Yeah. To me, those are results. And it looks to me that BSV is outperforming everyone else. So what I would say is, how about if you're a critic of BSV or a skeptic, how about you outperform BSV first before providing any coaching to Craig Wright and InChain and CoinGeek on how they can do a better job? I mean, that would be like me running a successful business and some guy with failed business after failed business who can't even make a dime is trying to give me advice about how to have more customers. How about you beat BSV first? And then when you do that, give some advice about, how it can improve its PR. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, really good explanation. And again, I think people just take it too simply, or they just, go on Twitter and then see the post, that's a scam, that's a scam, that's a scam. So they just go on and believe it without actually doing the research. Because that's what, when I first started, obviously with, the first thing I saw was Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then you dig into it a bit more. And then what's that BSV? So one night I sat down and then just had to read. And I'm doing like, oh, wow, they're actually working on, they have some nice projects going on, real applications and so on with, legit, businesses right now, right? So it's stuff that you don't see, but if you don't make the effort to actually go out and reading and learning a bit more about it, obviously you'll skip that. And, obviously you won't see it at all. You'll just see the narrative being like BTC, and then, to the moon, Lambos and so on. And then it's kind of a discussion again with the Alvings going on now. So you were talking
another thing too, if I can throw another thing in there. Yep. I think people also confuse business with politics, and they fail to understand how those two vary. And people assume that in order to create a profitable enterprise, you have to be liked by everyone, that it's some sort of popularity contest. But I can show you a lot of people who are very popular who can't even get people to buy a T-shirt. I mean, if you want to go on Instagram right now and check out a lot of the blue check marks who got a whole bunch of followers, they're really pretty, they're really popular, can't sell a T-shirt, can't sell a $15 book, right? So being popular, being cute, being loved, being well-liked isn't the same thing as generating, a profitable enterprise. On the other hand, you can be someone that people hate, and they will pay you in spite of the fact that they hate you if they value what you do. A lot of people hate mechanics. They don't trust mechanics at all, but they pay them because what they do is indispensable. Stand-up comedians, when they make fun of an occupation, is there anyone that gets more heat than lawyers? We love to make fun of lawyers, but when we need them, we pay them because what they do is indispensable, right? So the rules that people play by and the things they're willing to accommodate when they're asking you to create value for them and solve problems for them are very different when they're asking you to go grab a beer with them. So I'm okay if everyone in the world is all in agreement about not wanting to have a beer with Craig Wright. That's his issue in terms of his personal friendships and so forth. It has nothing to do with me or what anybody else should be caring about besides him and his own. On the other hand, what I'm interested in is he on the path of creating something so valuable that people are willing to pay for it in the way that they already do when they choose to give money to other people that they never hang out with? I highly doubt if you'd be willing to hang out with everybody that you give money to for the services they provide. You probably hate some of those people. They probably hate you too. Don't think for a second that the guy serving you your food likes you. Probably doesn't like you. But, you know, there's mutual exchange there. I mean, that's what exchange is about. Exchange isn't about liking each other. It's about needing each other and being economically incentivized to cooperate based on, you know, what can come from a win-win transaction.
Yeah, exactly. So great explanation again. So, yeah, I agree 100% on that because, you know, businesses out there, you know, they have a lot at stake and stuff like that. And then, you know, EHR, I believe they're in the medical sector. I'm not too sure. You probably attended the conference there. Did you in London or?
No, I haven't been to a single CoinGeek conference yet. I'm looking forward to the next one. Hopefully
New York City,
able to actually go. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the first one because I think it's in New York or something like that, right?
Yes, yeah, I think that's what that is. And hopefully with you know, this thing going on, hopefully it's not a virtual conference, but let's hope for for people going there. But yeah, so I think that's great what you explained about, you know, the transaction, because at the end of the day, you know, people will use, you know, or, you know, people like in the use case like me and you know, they just want to go you know, in a physical location, or it could be virtual as well, but then being able to exchange money. Again, the companies, you know, might be looking, you know, to store data, that sort of thing. So applications that are like transactional and more like an exchange. And like you mentioned about the restaurants, you know, obviously, you know, he's being nice to you, but obviously, you know, he's going to deliver a service, you're going to pay, and then maybe tip him. And then, you know, you're going to leave, going your way, and then he keeps working, that sort of thing. So that makes total sense on that. Talking about BSV, so where do you see like BSV, let's say in the short term, especially with what's coming up in a day now for the halving, and then maybe for the next 6 months or maybe the next year? Do you see anything else for progress on BSV or?
Yeah, so my answer to that question before the kind of global shutdown that we're seeing right now was that by the time we get to the end of 2020, BSV will be impossible for anyone to ignore. They might still be saving face by pretending like they always respected it or like they were never part of the criticism party. They may still try to mock it, but it will be impossible to ignore. It will be in everyone's face. Because I think the rate of application development, the rate of business development, the rate of transaction growth, the economics and how it's set up to survive the halvening. My thought was that's where we're going to be by the end of 2020. By the end of 2020, BSV is going to be, for the most part, a front runner on all the metrics that matter, right?
Okay.
Even if there is some like crap coin with like higher market cap or something. Now, I still believe that, but because so much business activity is affected, I'm not quite sure if that prediction is going to be accelerated or delayed now. I can see it going either way. That's what makes this time so interesting. On one end, doesn't matter how set up your tool is, your network is for business activity, if the business activity that you were banking on has ceased. And a lot of us right now are experiencing having made deals, having made agreements for certain, you know, business activities to happen, and we've had to postpone them now. We've had to reschedule them now. We've had to push them off. At the same time, sometimes a crisis can amplify people's openness to alternatives, and maybe the things that are happening now could force people to be more interested in the economic forces and factors that contribute to recessions. It can make people see the flaws in our monetary system. It can make people look for alternative stores of value and understanding the role that utility plays in trying to find a good store of value. Mm-hmm. So I can see a scenario where BSV succeeds faster than we thought it would.
Yeah.
Because of this crisis. And I also can see a scenario where it takes a little bit longer. But I do think it's going to be one of those now. I think it's going to be faster or longer. My original prediction was by into 2020, but I think it's going to be faster or longer now just because of this. But I'm still bullish on BSV long term, Yeah, that's my thought, man.
Yeah, that one we can't really predict what's going to happen really because people in general have less money. So if people join crypto for investing, then it might not be so much of that. But on the other hand, like maybe BSV in that case is better like situated in that sense that if companies on board the project for their real use case inside their business, that might generate a bit more for BSV in that case. Obviously, on the other side, BTC and then the altcoins in general, like are they going to do well depending on how much money people have to actually invest in that? Because it seems that whenever the markets crashed, like recently, like crypto went down as well. So it's tough to say what's going to happen with this again. Yeah. So maybe I don't want to drag this too long, but maybe as the last kind of question for people, new to crypto, what kind of applications do you use? Talking about BSV, what kind of applications, wallets do you use that people can actually, download and then, start exchanging stuff? What would you recommend in that sense?
Oh man. Look, I mean, just merely talking about wallets can be a very contentious thing, right? Because there are lots of debates about what's useful, why it's useful, how centralized or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
in terms of user friendliness for beginners, I would name Handcash, CentB, Simply Cash, Relay. All of those are user friendly in different ways. And at the end of the day, if I'm answering this question for somebody that's new, maybe I'm, like Handcash might be like the easiest, quickest way to onboard somebody. I know when I've, like shared Bitcoin with Uber drivers and stuff, I've done it with Handcash because it's just easy like that. A lot of people that are, a little bit more into it, tend to like Relay, but man, I don't know if I'm the best guy to really be giving out wallet recommendations. You know what I mean?
I was just talking in general. If there's something that you use and that for beginners that look at and stuff. So that's great.
Handcash was my first.
Yeah,
Handcash was my first.
Yeah, Handcash was the first for me too. So it's pretty simple, and then it's fun to share your handle and so on. And then it's really easy to share it with some people. I think. That was last year when I first got started with a little bit with BSV. It was people online, let's say they would talk to a friend, they would download it and then show their handle, and then people would actually donate money for them to, get started. Just, it could be like a couple pennies, right, just to get started. So I found that really interesting. And then, seeing that it was like so fast and you didn't have to wait like 10 minutes to receive it, I think it was good. And then now, you can actually do replies and so on with it, write a little note and so on. So that's pretty interesting, I find. So if people would like to use that, so I'll give again in the description a bit more info where to look at about that. So
you started with Handcash, then go to Relay, Relay X.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, I didn't want to drag this too long. So would you have any last word on BSV? If you want to say the last few words or something about BSV, more than welcome to do it.
I was listening to Terrence McKenna talk about psychedelics once, and he made an interesting statement. Someone asked him, hey, what advice would you give to people that are interested in psychedelics? And he said, your first psychedelic trip should be to the library. And what he meant by that was you shouldn't involve yourself in anything if you're going to point the finger and blame someone else for your disappointment or your negative experience, should it not turn out well for you. Yeah. So instead of just rushing into the psychedelic experience with glee because of someone else's story about an experience they had, take a trip to the library and read about it. Because if you're really interested in this thing, in a way that's sustainable, right, you're going to inform yourself. And I would say it's up to people if they want to speculate. I'm not going to pontificate in either direction. You know, what people do with their money, energy, and time is entirely up to them. I'm not a gambler. I'm not a time the market type of guy. Yeah. And I also take responsibility for my choices. I don't blame people for it. Anything that I do, even if it turns out terribly, I don't blame people. I own what I do. What I would say to people that are new and that are curious about BSV, that are interested in it, is I would say, do a little research, do a little reading, you know, and, you know, I would say start with the white paper, even if you don't understand everything in it. There are some aspects of it that are pretty technical and hard to understand, at least for me. Some people think it's easy, but it's okay to only understand 50% of it. Just try, because then you're not so dependent on other people telling you what it said, because everybody out there is going to have an opinion on telling you what it said. So like, just try to read it. Just try that. I would say check out some BSV podcasts. There are a lot of people out there in the BSV community that are putting out podcasts, and reach out to people on Twitter who are in BSV, or go to Twitch. Reach out to people there and ask them questions. Something that the BSV community doesn't get a lot of credit for. People always talk about, oh, BSV community is cultish, a bunch of trolls, this and that. But man, when I first got into this, I would send messages to people in BSV, and all of them would give me good answers to my questions, give me things to think about, and they would give me additional things to read. They would say, check out this article right here. You know, they would say, check out this book, or whatever it may be. So that would be my advice. Like, listen to some podcasts, read a few articles, start with the white paper. It's okay if you don't understand everything, but make your first investment in knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. I think that makes perfect sense. All right. So especially that, again, that would also be one of my recommendation. If you're starting in crypto, like, do your own research, you know, obviously, because everyone, you know, they're not going to say what you want all the time, right? So you got to, especially if you're going to invest money, you got to make the decision, and then, you know, like you said, not blaming anyone, right? So go out there, do your own research, invest, and then if you lose, you lose, but at least it's on you. So that's, personal responsibility that you're taking. So that's awesome. So yeah, so
maybe I'll try to entice a little bit with this really quickly.
Yeah.
There's a movie that I saw as a kid called The Blob, and it was a movie about this blob, like this gooey like substance, right? And it started off really small, but whenever the blob expanded and you know, it would consume something, and then it would get bigger. And this happened over and over until the point where it was like big enough to consume an entire city, right? And it was like this race against time. How do we stop the blob? Well, I think in some ways, Bitcoin is like the blob. When you first start off, your interest might be superficial. It might be like, ooh, can I make money off of this? And there are a lot of people, even if they talk like they don't care about money now, there are a lot of people who got into it for that reason, okay? Everybody didn't get interested in it for some deeply sophisticated reason. A lot of people got interested in it because they were there for the money. And I'll accept that. If that's all you care about is getting rich quick, I'll accept that, but just look into it. Because the reason I compare it to the blob is because it's the kind of thing where once you start to research, no matter what your reasons for getting into it were, you're going to see that there are so many cool, interesting rabbit holes to go down that it's going to suck you in like the blob, and your curiosity for Bitcoin is just going to expand, and it's just going to eat up everything in your life and drag you into economics. It's going to drag you into technology and computer science. It's going to drag you into philosophy. And I would say, try me on this. Like, try to listen to like 3 podcast episodes on it. Try to read the white paper. Try to read 3 different articles on it and see if it won't tempt you to take an interesting journey down a rabbit hole where you'll look back and you say, man, I may have gotten in it so that I could maybe benefit from the wind moon philosophy. But now that I'm in it, this thing is so fascinating. I want to learn more about this revolution that I could be a part of.
Yeah.
I'm witnessing history here.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it was great to have you. Like your last words there, you're super passionate about it, and just passionate about BSV per se. You're also about other things as well. So a lot of great posts that you have on Twitter as well. So it was great to have you on the show, and hopefully people learn something about BSV. Sorry. And then, so it was great to have you. So,
hey, it's me again, Sylvain. So hopefully you liked this interview with TK Coleman. So he brings a lot of, a good perspective, about BSV. I think what he recommends, take an approach to it, read into it a little bit more. That's obviously, allowing you to make, a solid, make your mind on certain cryptocurrency. So hopefully this was value to you. Hopefully you learned something new. Again, so if you like this, again, share your thoughts, your comments, and I'll get back to you. And again, if you have any suggestions for the next video, let me know. If not, I highly recommend you like this video, subscribe, and then hit notifications as well, and then share with your friends. So we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye-bye.